So we'll start in just a second. We have some people still coming in, and then we'll get going. On line 74 right now.
Yeah.
So
Just 20 minutes ago, there was nobody there. What they get, they show up.
yeah. You all online hear me okay? Just want to make sure before we get started. Righty then. So welcome everyone to this new moon meditation meeting. Today's January 16th, 2026, and so glad to have all of you here today for this important work. And so at the new moon, we work, as many of us know, in the lower interlude of the monthly cycle. Lower interludes are generally concerned with the process of spirit moving into form, so with objectivity and expression. It is a time to consider what it really means for the soul to be externalized, or we could say made flesh, and how we can each aid in the manifestation of the divine plan on earth. The lower interlude is often looked upon as a time to focus on the distribution of spiritual energies. Though technically the lower interlude is the period of preparation which precedes that distribution. In our meditation work, energy is contacted, appropriated, focused, and then sent forth on its mission. But before it is sent forth, the ways and the means by which it is to go forth into the world must be visualized and the thought forms prepared. These final preparations are made in the lower interlude. Distribution, we might say, follows upon the scientific use of both interludes as a daily habit. It is essentially the right employment of energy in service. And so when reflecting on the interludes, we are confronted immediately with the basic trinity present in all spiritual work. We have the lower, we have the higher, and we have the mediating agent or soul, which links the two. So our work is fundamentally scientific work, but it is also magical work, which simply means that it is creative and that it has to do with thought, for thought is the basis of all energy direction. So the right use of the interludes therefore requires, first of all, mental polarization. The soul operates upon the mental plane, and from there it directs and governs through the employment of three minds. Our work in meditation at the new and full moons is effective to the extent that we are able to work as souls on and from the plane of mind, and with all three aspects of mind in both interludes, and with the period of meditation, which we might liken to an intercessory activity between the two. So this new moon today occurs in the sign of Capricorn, a sign of both deep materiality and of high spiritual triumph. So it is a good time to reflect on the dual nature of all things, and the fact that life is just as present in the highest expressions of spirit as it is in the lowest expressions of matter, and of course everything in between. And so this new moon meditation will include a short presentation on the problem of materialism and the transmutation of desire. We'll then have a meditation followed by a group discussion on the theme. So before we get started though, let us take a moment to align ourselves as souls and as a group. Visualize the worldwide group. And we'll sound together the mantram of the new group of world servers. May the power of the one life pour through the group of all true servers. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones. May we fulfill our part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech. So when considering the problem of materialism, we are confronted with a basic, we might even say the basic problem of form. So it is a problem which is universal and perennial and is very much tied up in the nature of duality itself. So we could say it's archetypal as well. In the esoteric science, number is the basis of all that is. It substands creation itself. And so it's a very effective means of looking at cause and effect in a very deeply foundational sense. The entire esoteric cosmogony can be narrated through the progression of number. From the zero, which stands as the absolute, emanates the 1, 2, and 3, at which point the worlds are formed and creation begins as 3 again, and then 7, and eventually the 12, which symbolizes the many and all subsequent numbers. These numbers, being the basis of all manifestation, are reflected again and again throughout it. And so within this cosmogony, we have spirit matter, the basic and archetypal duality, producing the objective universe. And it does so through the medium of a third factor, which is always and at every level consciousness. And so this is why esoterically the entire universe is said to be modeled on the basic form of the triangle. Consciousness extends from the very highest to the very lowest. And so once spirit and matter are brought together, there is no duality, which is not also a triplicity. So the problem of materialism is basically a problem of desire and of form attachment. And so matter itself is not actually the problem. What we call the problem of materialism is fundamentally a problem of consciousness, because it has to do with the relationship of the self and the not self. And so this basic duality is the fundamental spiritual problem faced by all aspirants as they tread the path. And today it is increasingly being recognized as a problem by humanity as a whole. And this is a very, very, very good thing. So the average aspirant or person of goodwill may look at one of the many versions of this problem of form attachment and find themselves sort of stuck somewhere within this duality, striving for the higher, for the good, for universal virtue, but not quite able to relinquish the desire for or attachment to the lower pool of form. And so aspiration is present, but not yet the capacity and the experience to fulfill it. And so every spiritual problem can be boiled down to some version of this basic duality of right relationship between higher and lower, between right or left, between spiritual and material, or between personality and soul. And so even if this duality, this sort of reduction to duality, may oversimplify from the exoteric angle, the solution is always to bring in the third factor, which in every case is always the soul itself. And so what this looks like in context varies. The soul as the third factor often appears outside the scope of the duality or the problem under consideration, yet at the same time may be discovered within it. Sometimes, rather than resolving the duality into a singularity, the soul actually preserves the relative truth of both ways. Sometimes it opens a third and new way or choice. Sometimes this third way perpetuates the duality. Sometimes it abolishes it entirely. And sometimes it actually absorbs it. And sometimes it does all of these things simultaneously. But in every case, what we need to keep in mind is that the soul always models its work upon the plan. And the forms and the circumstances necessitated by this plan may not, and actually often are not, always be what we think or what we expect. And so the soul as agent of the plan is the perennial factor which resolves every pair of opposites, and in fact also holds the key to every paradox. And it does this, it resolves every pair of opposites paradoxically by establishing duality. And this basic duality, we might say, is the duality of the plan on one hand, and on the other hand, the expression of that plan on Earth. That's sort of in a planetary sense of that expression. And so psychologically, the soul is both the soul accomplishes this because psychologically, we could say, it is both the seat of individuality, and it is also the group itself. And so the soul is both the one and the many. It is both the higher and the lower. The soul is present within the form, but it is also that which substands or overshadows the form. But the soul is not the form. This is very important. The soul is not the form. It is neither the form on the right nor the form on the left. The soul is consciousness. It is a bridging agency, a bridge which carries salvation from the higher worlds. But this bridge can only operate when one becomes the soul as a living fact. And so this becoming is what is meant when we speak of service, soul service. The redeeming force of hierarchy requires a living medium through which to pass, and the soul, we could say the self, in full incarnation is this vehicle. Say the only vehicle, actually. And so soul consciousness is essentially the factor of self as the one who knows himself to be. It is the basis and foundation for the discovery of all that which is true and real. And so man must know the divinity within himself before he can begin to know God in nature. And so what we mean by this, and what we say when we say that soul consciousness is something that must be discovered, both as self and then eventually in nature, what this means is that it is a knowledge which is ultimately derived from one's own experience. It is not something which can be learned from a book. This is because it has to do with the full objectivity and the full expression of the subjective life. And so the expression in form of something which is not the form, the actual experience of that expression, is what soul knowledge is. To accomplish this, often very drastic and transformative measures are required, right, to facilitate this process of externalization, a process which we also call the great reversal of the wheel or the treading of the path. And so on this path, one must dramatically shift one's center of identity and polarization out of the desire body and into the mind. And this is far more difficult than most people realize. That's because there are many misconceptions about what mental polarization is and how it is really achieved. So it is far more than just developing the intelligence. It is far more than just learning to control one's emotions. It has to do fundamentally with the transference of energy and with the transmutation of desire or astral substance. So the astral or desire body is, as many of us know, a medium between man's thought faculties on the higher end and on the lower end, the sense perceptions of the physical world. Helena Blavatsky described it as the storehouse of all psychic iniquity. It absorbs all that man has put into it over the ages, and today the astral body of the planet, we could say, is like a great pollutant surrounding the earth, acting as a source of great moral and even physical suffering for humanity. We could also say it is today like a great barrier or a crucible through which every aspirant to soul consciousness must struggle and pass. Another name for this great cloud of suffering is glamour, and it can be imagined as a dense fog surrounding the thought forms through which the human mind operates, thereby obscuring the truth. And so to really achieve mental polarization, one must learn to identify this glamorous substance and to observe the way it distorts and veils human thought, human speech, and human action. The strength of glamour lies in the fact that we are blind to it, so we cannot see it. But consequently, the ability to see glamour from the right occult altitude is the key to its dissipation. And so it is the soul in this sense that sees. But bringing the perception of the soul into operation requires, first of all, this mental polarization, right? First of all, that means is the practice of dispassion and discrimination as a regular and daily habit. It also means daily meditation, wherein a bridge in consciousness is gradually and rhythmically and intentionally established, which links the soul to all aspects of its form, right? So this is that redeeming relationship, that redeeming bridge at every level. And so this simple practice of meditation and of the practice of dispassion and discrimination in one's life, this is actually the basis whereby the dynamic power of the soul is cultivated. And this power is basically, on one hand, the ability to see reality, and on the other hand, to fundamentally change the form. And so the soul works above and sees the plan, and it lives below and through the form, lifts and redeems the lower worlds. And so one stage of this redemptive process, wherein the form is fundamentally changed, is called transmutation. And so esoterically, transmutation is the means whereby force is changed into energy, and that which is lower is absorbed into the higher. This occurs through the magnetic effect of soul contact, scientifically, consciously, and rhythmically induced. And so this is distinct from the approach of many well-meaning aspirants who simply attempt to establish the jurisdiction of the soul through the imposition of the will, in an attempt to, we could say, negate the form. So opposing the form in this way is not soul power. The soul does not oppose the form. In acting in this way actually results in the intensification of the already established astral polarization. Right, so whatever degree of astral polarization there is gets intensified. This leads to suppression, fundamentally, and in almost every case to failure. Only the third factor of soul can resolve duality, putting matter, form, and desire each in their proper place. So there is a great need today for humanity as a whole to establish a scientific understanding of the soul as a foundation in the thinking through of solutions to humanity's problems. Esotericism, which is essentially the science of the soul, offers a paradigm of duality and its resolution, which has the potential to revolutionize almost every discipline, if it were to be understood and applied. More than that, scientifically induced soul consciousness at a racial level would end the reign of materialism and thereby place the matter aspect in its rightful place as a divine vehicle for the indwelling life. Established soul consciousness would also clear the entire astral plane of glamour, and it would mean that the thought forms upon which human civilization is built would be displayed once again in the full light of day, and the spiritual sustenance of a higher plane would then precipitate down through them to all like a heavenly and golden rain. So this worldwide expression of soul consciousness is exactly what is meant by the statement that the solution to every one of humanity's problems is the reappearance of the Christ. Christ, the world teacher, is the soul of the planet itself. And because the soul is both the many and the one, we have in the person of Christ the planetary soul externalized as one, and that same principle of soul externalized in humanity as many. In this basic juxtaposition, you have again the soul linking and resolving a basic duality. So without further ado, let us proceed now to our new moon meditation, strengthening the hand of the new group of women servers. We begin with the stage of group fusion, linking as souls with each other and with the worldwide group. I am one with my group brothers, and all that I have is theirs. May the love which is in my soul pour forth to them. May the strength which is in me lift and aid them. May the thoughts which my soul creates reach and encourage them. Alignment. We recognize our place as a group within the heart center of the new group of world servers. Mentally extend a line of light and energy towards a spiritual hierarchy, the planetary heart center, to the Christ, the heart of love within the hierarchy, towards Shambhala, where the will of God is known. Higher interlude. Hold the mind open for a few moments on the planetary role of the group of world servers. Mediating between hierarchy and humanity, responding to hierarchical impression, mediating the planet to existence. Meditation. Reflect on this seed thought. the impression and expression of certain great ideas, humanity must be brought to the understanding of the fundamental ideals upon which will govern the new age. This is the major task of the new group of world servers. Lower interlude. Visualize the precipitation of the will to good, essential love throughout the planet. Excuse me, precipitation. Visualize the precipitation of the will to good, essential love throughout the planet. From Shambhala, the planetary heart hierarchy, through the Christ, the group of world servers, through the men, through all men and women of goodwill everywhere in the world, and finally through the hearts and the minds of the whole human family. Lower interlude. Consider the many ways in which the power of the one life and the love of the one soul are working out in the world through members of the group of world servers, so building a thought form of solution to world problems. distribution. As the great invocation is sounded, visualize the irradiation of human consciousness with light and love and power. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Everybody. Now the period of our meeting where there's the floor is open for people to share comments. It could be about the new moon work or about spiritual work generally, or about the theme, which was on the problem of humanity, with the problem of materialism. Yeah, go ahead. If you have something. Yeah.
Okay. This materialism and the transportation of desire is an immediate challenge facing the world, facing an increasing potency, aspirants, disciples, and advanced disciples. Reflecting on this materialism and transmutation of desire, was praying that we can make it practical so that every one of us, whoever hears this can go home and just renew his or her efforts to bring about this transmutation. And it was clearly stated that one of the main approaches is through the bringing about the need, the inner need to bring about the betterment of the vehicles for the soul, the personality, because it is through those vehicles that the soul energy pours through into the threefold world. But it was even made more practical when it was stated that the means, the practical immediate means, is by the practice of dispassion. Then detachment. Then discrimination through discipline. This is something that all of us can do every day in every possible situation of life. This transmutation is going on everywhere. Painful process, like you said, it's not an easy process. But today, more than ever before, there's clarity concerning process. And that process again is through dispassion, emotional aspect, then discrimination, seeing the right from the wrong, the light from the darkness, and on the dualities. Then detachment, so that you follow what is right. And what ties them all together is the daily discipline, meditation, the process through which the soul energy is made available.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Very well said. I agree. I think people underestimate what is really dispassion, how difficult that really, I mean, there's one level of where you're basically controlling your emotions, or even totally, but then there's real dispassion, which is absolutely no astral disturbance in the life whatsoever. In any environment, no matter how stressful, the astral waters remain totally still, unperturbed. It's almost unthinkable feat, really, from the angle of form. It's only the soul can do that. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I would add just one to dispassion, detachment, discipline, harmlessness.
Harmless.
I think in order to live in this world as a free, soul-infused personality, we use those tools that you just said to live harmlessly. And once we create that vision for ourselves, it will eliminate and affect others.
Oh, there's a hand. Yes, thank you.
Good.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for this wonderful presentation and the clarity of what we are attempting to do energetically came through well, I think. And Emmanuel, I was thinking as you were talking about the idea of divine indifference, which
I think to the extent that I understand it is another way of not disturbing the astral waters. And I'm not sure how you do that, except you just keep practicing. But Michael, when I raised my hand, I really wanted to talk about the Great Invocation because I think it is so important for us right now to recognize that it is a great invocation, and that in humanity's invocative appeal inevitably is responded to. It evokes the divine, and so when we sound the great invocation with sincerity, with focus, remembering what it is that we're invoking divine purpose, expressing through the plan for humanity. And recently, the World Goodwill, we focused on hope, and to me, that's the center of hope, that we, you and me, us plain little old people, have an opportunity to bring energy to the working out of the plan for humanity. And so folks, let's do it. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
My thoughts were really drawn tonight, Michael, what you were sharing. About in terms of desire. I think when we desire to be of service, we're creating a completely different kind field of desire. I think that's why they tell us that love has to be present before will can be worked with. Because we have to really be in touch with the needs of others and desire to make a difference, to serve and help in some way and be of service. But that unlocks the right orientation, because when we're meditating, we're trying to create a channel, but we have to have the right desire, the right orientation. I can't remember the exact wording. There was some thing that hierarchy is open to penetration. And so they're sort of waiting for us to have enough desire to be of service and make some help in some way according to the plan, that we actually we create that channel, we penetrate through, being focused, being concentrated on a problem, continuing to meditate and contemplate on it until we really penetrate, and then we can be illuminated by hierarchical thought, and then hopefully bring it down, be inspired, and express it. So, we talk about in this meditation impression and expression. But I just was really focused on the right desire that opens that channel. Because obviously, dark forces can use will energy, but they're not using it in the same way, because they're not using that stage of love that completely changes the path, the orientation. And so therefore, they're locked out of hierarchical thought according to the plan and according to the soul. So yeah, that work of being selflessly serving and desireless of anything for the self, but trying to solve problems to help others is really the key.
An aspect of the work in terms of dissipating glamour, which was a theme. It does involve the third vehicle. And sometimes I think that's a subject that we need to always bring in, because the etheric is kind of neutral. You know, can either be an influx of lower desires and working through the lower chakras. But as we work more effectively with the soul, then it stimulates the higher chakras above the diaphragm. And then the heart center opens, and the head center opens, the throat center. And so I just think that's always what we have to keep in mind when we're meditating. It's an energetic process, you know. And as the mind comes into control more, then the mind directs the energies through the etheric. And the Davic realms are very much a part of that. And so that enables us to become vehicles as a group, as a collective for the soul, you know, through that etheric network, which the work in triangles, you know, always reminds us of. There's a network, and that network can be stimulated through our daily practice, all our daily practices, and the energies of the higher self work through that and irradiate our lives and the life of our group and the life of the planet. And the etheric is what we're building in the Antakarana. You know, we're working with the etheric to visualize an etheric bridge that brings about the influx of hierarchical energy. So, you know, these new moons and full moons are always the opportunity to really work together with that irradiation through the etheric into the etheric body of the whole planet.
The hand raised from Joe. Joan, can you unmute? Try it. Prompt you again. See if that worked. Joan, are you there? Can you unmute? Should be able to unmute yourself. It must be a malfunction.
Away from the.
It's probably just not working as it's supposed to. Joan, feel free to email your comments to us. Sorry, it's not working. We do have to probably conclude now, unless anybody has any final thoughts to share.
Well, today,
Yes.
materialism, or one of the recognitions in the world today, of materialism is the product of our minds. The same mind that discriminates and helps us to collect the tremendous amount of knowledge that has helped us to solve so many problems has separated humanity. And that separateness, that separative endeavor is undermining almost all world structures today. Then the desire, the selfish desire comes in and desires all that the separative tendencies produces, the short-term benefits of the results of the separative tendencies. And then it actually precipitates into the physical plane, and we see wars, fighting, misunderstandings, suspicions, and on and on and on. And like you said, the need for harmlessness, inclusiveness, and right speech cannot be overemphasized. Because through speech, the whole world is generating tremendous amount of evil tendencies. And it is through speech that we can heal. Therefore, the need for right speech to heal the world problems is the duty of every aspirant, disciple, and advanced disciples. That is how we're going to transmute the materialism towards an enlightened materialism in which the unit within the group is seen as important, because when that unit is fully developed, that unit goes to contribute to the group. So that unit becomes a group asset. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuel. It was a beautiful, beautiful note to end on. Just gonna put up a few announcements for upcoming meetings. Just the Festival of Aquarius full moon, Sunday, February 1st at 4 p.m. I believe it coincides with the exact time. So special meeting, and then we have, of course, following around 2 weeks after that, the Aquarius new moon on Monday, February 16th. We're just seeing you all.